How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today I'm really excited because we're going to be taking a look at Night of the Demons 3. This is from 1997 and is sometimes known as Demon House. This movie was directed by Jimmy Kaufman and actually written by Kevin S. Tenny, the director of the first movie. Cool to see him still involved in the franchise. The movie stars Kris Holden Reid, Gregory Calpakis, Pamela Rodriguezl, and Amelia Kinkade is once again back as Angela. Great to see her again. She's one of the best parts of the movie, and good to have a consistent villain for the entire trilogy. Now, I will say, in regards to Part 3, when I stumbled across Part 1, I didn't know anything about it, and it was just such a cool, pleasant surprise. It quickly rose up and became one of my favorite horror movies, and I really love Night of the Demons Part 1. And after having seen it, I went out to my local used media shops, I really dug around, and I was able to find Parts 2 and the remake, and I like both of these movies as well. Not as much as the first one, but both of them do have their moments, and I really did enjoy them. But then Part 3, that was the one that was really hard to find. I was digging around, searching for it forever, but Part 3 was super out of print, and a lot of people on the internet were saying, don't bother, it's the bad one. But I wanted it. I wanted to get all four of them. And eventually, Scream Factory was nice enough to release this on Blu-ray. I heard that it came out. I was a little late to the party. I didn't hear of this release for some reason, but as soon as I found out about it, I rushed out and got it, and I was super glad to finally have this one. And I will say, in regards to the quality, yeah, this is the worst of the franchise. It's a step down from the others, but I think people oversell it. It is worse than the others, but it really isn't that bad. I watched it, it totally kept my interest, and by the time we got to the end, things did bubble up enough to be satisfying. I will say, they didn't get as crazy, intense, and over the top as the other three movies did, and there was nothing in here that really came even close to touching the first, but as I said, it had some enjoyable moments and I really did like it. But since everybody talks about those flaws, yeah, they are here. I mean, right off the bat, we do get some bad 90s CGI, and also, we go into Whole House, and it looks totally different, much more modern. I guess Angela's been living there for like 10 years or so by this point. Maybe she's been doing some renovations, I don't know. But I think the biggest thing is the characters. The characters in the first Night of the Demons really sold it, and there were good actors in the other movies as well. But in this one, I didn't care about the characters as much. And part of that might be because these are young teens on the run after having committed a crime, so intrinsically they're more serious than the happy-go-lucky partying kids that we got in the first movie. But also, you start off kind of knowing what everybody's deal is, you know? You know who the good guys are, you know who the bad guys are, and you know what their characters are. But I really liked being surprised by the first Night of the Demons. Stooge was a jerk, but he was so charismatic. Sal seemed like he was going to be the bad guy, but he actually turned out to be pretty nice. And Raj didn't seem like he would be a hero, but really stepped up by the end of the movie. I liked the surprises the first Night of the Demons had, and I liked the charisma that really everybody in that film had. And here, it is a step down, and that really is sad. But again, I don't think it's that bad. When we get to the end of the movie, when a lot of the kids have transformed into their demon forms, there are a couple of cool ideas in here. There's one guy that always liked to wear this devil mask, and you know that's going to play into something. And there was a girl that had a sock puppet of a snake on her hand, and you know they're going to do something wacky and cheesy with that. Okay, a little bit too cheesy, but you know what? It was still a funny idea. And of course, Angela's still there, and I like how in this movie, with everyone being tense, she's able to play on that and kind of subtly manipulate the group against each other, whispering to a certain character, "You don't really believe that, do you? Surely they're trying to manipulate you." And I did like to see her role as a manipulator in this. Plus, she still has her old Angela antics, a little bit of dancing, not as much as previously, but she does do this scene with a gun that anyone who watched the movie is definitely going to remember. Even if you forget everything else, you're gonna remember that gun sequence. So overall, yeah, it is a step down, but I think people kind of underrate this one. It's still a really fun movie. I'm glad that it's out on Blu-ray now, and I would definitely say go pick it up if you're fans of the series. Just temper your expectations. Anyway, I do want to go in and do a bit more of analysis, so I do want to start talking a bit about the plot. I'll be avoiding major spoilers, and I'll try to not go too far to the end, but I do want to talk about some specifics, so no major spoilers, but let's dive in. We open up with a cop going to Hull House, and I do like when he goes through the barrier, we see this shimmery effect to tell you where the barrier is. Yeah, it's cheesy 90s CGI right at the beginning of the movie. I don't know, though, I think it was kind of funny, like Hull House is a bubble around it. Well, he goes inside, and Angela's there, and he says, "This is government property, no one should be living here." And she says, "Oh, well, I have, this is my house." And when he takes out his badge, Angela throws it right back in his face, quite literally, like a throwing star, and we get our first kill of the movie. It's a fun little introductory scene, and we know we are going to come back here. We then cut to a sort of 90s tribute to the animation at the first movie, and the animation that opened up the first movie is a classic, and I love it. This one, we see 90s cartoon CGI kids kind of floating through the air, and yeah, it doesn't look great, but it's kind of reached at this point in time this charming nostalgia for old school bad CGI animation, and there's something surreal about all these kids just kind of floating through the air from the graveyard to Hull House. I don't know, I think it's kind of campy, but I kind of like it. But anyway, cut to us meeting our main characters. We get this cheerleader and her best friend, who's kind of this nerdy girl. They're going to a Halloween party thrown by the school, but wouldn't you know it, their car breaks down in the middle of nowhere, and a van pulls up next to them with these sort of rowdy kids in it, and they say, "We might be stuck here for hours if we don't go. Let's just go with these kids." After a little bit, they stop at a convenience store. One of them tries to use a fake ID to buy beer, and boy does this situation escalate. The guy behind the counter tries to chase them out with a shotgun, and then you have this one kid who you know has issues that have not been checked, and he is way too eager to turn this into a violent situation. He snatches the shotgun away from the cashier right as some cops walk in, and we go from a simple beer purchase to a shootout, and boy, this goes crazy really quick. A few things happen in here. One of the guys gets shot, so he's down, and they want to take him to go get medical help, but the guy who has the shotgun says, "No, it's my skin on the line, I don't care if he bleeds out." So the guy that's shot definitely becomes something you have to keep an eye on, and if you're not careful, he'll die. And then two, you get this kid who is kind of pushed over by the group. He is kind of treated like a loser, and he happens to get one of the cops' guns. What does he do with this power? Does he try to prove that he can be a good second in command? Or is he going to be a wild card? He's definitely not the guy you want to have this gun, and you're worried what he might do with it. I wish we pushed his plot a little further. He sadly gets picked off a little bit too early, and I think we definitely could have done something more interesting with him at the end, because he is quite the wild card there. But anyway, they decide to hide at Hull House. While this is going on, there's a cop character who's big into magic, And it's a fun enough little gimmick. It doesn't really amount to super much. Like at one point he talks about a magician making an elephant disappear, and he goes, he didn't really make the elephant disappear, he just found a place big enough to hide it. And I'm like, wait, this whole conversation is just you figuring out that they're hiding. Whatever, though. He's a fun enough character, and wouldn't you know it, he's one day away from retirement. You know, if there's any cops watching, you should probably just take that last day off. It never turns out well. But anyway, the cops are looking for them. They hide at Hull House, and they find Angela in there once again, saying, this is my home, I live here, what are you doing? And they take her hostage and look around the house and see that there is in fact no one else there, but now they have kind of this thing. Some of the kids, the good kids, don't really want to be there and they're trying to get out. The other kids are trying to hold them there and just say, hey, let's lay low. In addition to the threat of someone waving a gun in your face, you do have that one friend who's shot and dying, so you have to figure out how you play this, and the fact that Angela's there is only going to make things worse, but none of them knows that. None of them knows what her deal is, and as she whispers into people's ears, that's going to wreck a few things and cause a bit of chaos. As I said, the movie starting out with this serious bank robbery plot isn't as fun as the previous movies, but when things do start to go crazy and when the kids do start to shift into the demon forms and when we do get some wacky shenanigans, again, not as good as the first ones, but overall, I was watching this movie, it held my interest well enough, and by the time we got to the end, I was having a good enough time with it. So again, not the biggest and best thing ever, but ultimately, even though it is a step down, a fun little B-side entry in the Night of the Demons series, and I am glad I have all 4 of them now. I definitely recommend all these movies, and even though this is the weakest, go in with those tempered expectations and you'll have a bit of fun with it. I'm really glad Scream Factory finally put this out. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. If you guys want to see more, you can click right there and see more. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Playlist here. Have a good day now.